Hey, what's up, guys? I'm back. It's your friend Clint here for another episode of Versus. And tonight, man, we got quite a lineup. We are talking about some of the greatest films in human history. Yes, we are. What are we talking about tonight, Clint? Well, let me tell you. We're talking about Boondock Saints versus Leprechaun. That is right. Two of the greatest films in history. Boondock Saints versus Leprechaun to celebrate St. Paddy's Day. And when you're celebrating, how better to do it than with your buddy? Huh? How better to do it than with your buddy, your brother, your family, your cousin? CB3. Curtis, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Happy Paddy's to all. Happy Paddy's to all.
Happy St. Paddy's to you too, sir. Man, what a day. How you been doing, man?
Pretty good. Go ahead.
Are you excited to talk about two of the greatest films in American history?
I am. We should have found somebody with a degree in film to do them justice, but we're just gonna have to work for you guys tonight. To bring in all the sweet notes that we miss. we can muddle through it, and hopefully it'll be entertaining at least.
Oh, dude, I actually met somebody that went to film school yesterday. I have a lot of friends that went to film school, but I met somebody yesterday.
You went to
yeah.
You live in Austin. You probably have like 40 friends that went to film
school. Would you go to the bar? No, not that. No, I actually met somebody yesterday, and I started talking to her about films and movies, and she went to film school. We got a long conversation. It was pretty cool, and I actually said, hey, I might have to pull you in one of these days, because I've been thinking about getting some more diverse opinions just in every once in a while, just some different blood. We've had some real fun with Dustin in here once in a while. We get Boudreaux in here once in a while, who's a award-winning horror film director. He's awesome. And so maybe we'll have her in sometime soon. And otherwise, holy smokes, man! Irish holiday, crazy times. You drinking a Guinness? You having some Jameson? What have you been up to?
I've got my fucking Guinness. I've got my fucking shillelagh. Oh, can't see it.
I've got my rock star. That's right. It doesn't say roadie. It says rock star.
You better Irish that up a little bit, you bastard.
I just went and did just got back from a dinner party. We were going to get started a little sooner, but I've got some friends getting married tomorrow, so I went and had the pre-wedding dinner. So Kendra and Aaron, shout out to you guys. And let's hop to it, man. Some of the greatest filmmaking in American history. That's right. What do you got? What do you got? Go back. Whoopsh.
No, I was just going to say hi to our folks in the chat. We got, of course, our lovely lady Bobby is in the house. She gave up Spider-Man for us. Now, that's a compliment.
That is quite
I've ever heard one.
That's quite a thing.
Let's see. We got Reese, and he's never seen either of these films.
What in the hell is wrong with you people?
So no spoiler. Well, there's gonna be spoilers. Sorry.
No spoilers. The movie came out in It was made in 1999. It's a 2000 movie. Dude, no spoilers. Also, in other news, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Bum bum bum. Oh, no spoilers.
I was just gonna watch that, man.
Yeah, you were. Not anymore.
We've got that James guy. And yes, Reese, you do need to see Boondock Saints. And EJ just jumped in. Welcome to Beckertown, and welcome to Versus. Good to see you.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button. Listen to your Uncle James here, and to what he says. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification. If you've already hit those other things, but you've never hit the notification bell, hit that too. Hit your neighbors. Hit your children. Wait, no, don't do any of those things. That's messed up. Willem Dafoe is in it, yes. I'm about to give you the synopsis and go through the whole cast of characters, but we wanted to say hi to the chat first. So now let's get back to Boondock Saints. What a fantastic film. Tired of crime overrunning the streets of Boston, Irish Catholic twin brothers Connor, who's played by Sean Patrick Flannery, a.k.a. Powder, for those who didn't know, and Murphy, Norman Reedus, who you know from Walking Dead and maybe Ghost Rider, are inspired by their faith to cleanse their homeland, or excuse me, their hometown of evil with their own brand of zealous vigilante justice as they hunt down and kill one notorious gangster after another. They become controversial folk heroes in the community. But Paul Smecker, Willem Dafoe, an eccentric, and boy is he eccentric, FBI agent, is fast closing in on their blood-soaked trail. It's a fantastic movie. It's so late 90s, and it's just a fun film. And boy, does it have a story too. It's got Sean Patrick Flannery, Norman Reedus, Willem Dafoe, David De La Rocco, who plays Rocco, Billy Connolly, who I sometimes call I won't say it.
No, say it, because I think I do too. What were you gonna say?
The poor man's John Cleese.
That's well, I always call him John Cleese. Like I'm like, yes, John Cleese is in that movie.
Yeah, when
It's
John
like, no,
Cleese was
he's not.
young, he's like when you had Michael Madsen and Tom Tom Sizemore.
Sizemore, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the Sizemore for John Cleese, which he's hilarious. He's got a really good one-man show, and he does some stand-up and stuff. Like the Billy Connolly's is hilarious, but he's great. But he probably wouldn't appreciate my dumbass from Texas calling him the poor man's John Cleese. Maybe he'd be flattered. I'd be flattered if somebody said that to me. But anyway, this movie, and maybe the most important cast member is Gerard Parks. You know who that is?
I do not.
It's Parkes, Parks, or Parkes. I don't know how it's pronounced, but he is Doc, the bartender. He's also the old man from Fraggle Rock who has Sprocket. Sprocket! Come on, Sprocket! He's in Fraggle Rock, and he plays a bartender with Tourette's, and he's the best, dude. He's awesome. But yeah, maybe the best character. You remember Fraggle Rock? Do you watch Fraggle Rock?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you remember when they go through the hole and they go into the real world? There was an old shopkeeper with his Muppet dog. Yeah, that guy is the bartender. So, yeah, what a fun thing. Somebody's messaging me, probably James. I don't have my phone handy. Who's messaging me? Prepare for some more viewers. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Hell yeah! Thank you, sir. James has just let me know that he's sharing the love. So hopefully we get some more viewers in here. If we don't, we love the viewers we got. So, yeah. So right away. Well, first off, Troy Duffy is the creator of this, and it's a crazy story about this movie. Have you seen? You said you haven't seen the documentary about it?
No, I haven't.
I want to encourage you. I think that there's 2 documentaries for this movie, if my memory serves me correct. This is a long time ago, late 90s, early 2000s, when this all happened and came out. So this is like back in the days when Kurt and Courtney documentaries were coming out and all these different things back in the old days. Those were such fun years. But there was a documentary, and one of them is called Overnight. There's more than one way to shoot yourself, and it's about Troy Duffy, the filmmaker, the writer of Boondock Saints. This guy, he was a bartender in L.A., and he wrote this script, and it caught on, and it was like you gotta remember, this is the time of like post Pulp Fiction, and one thing about this movie, it's got a bunch of interesting scenarios, and it has a very Tarantino-esque. It doesn't ramble on quite as much as a lot of Tarantino stuff, but it has a lot of Tarantino-esque things in this, almost stories or maybe things that could have happened, or conversations this guy lived, and then he wrote them into his movie. There's things in this movie that I love where it's like, I could just feel that like this really happened to this guy, or
Yeah,
this
they're
guy.
genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, or this guy bartending. This is a conversation or a story he heard bartending. I've spent a lot of years bartending, and so uh, I love it. But this guy, he ended up with this script. He ended up with all these A-list people. Like he
Mhm.
had A-list actors coming to his bar trying to get in on this movie. There was a bidding war. There was all these major studios that ended up trying to get in on this movie, and like he had the hottest script in town. Everybody wanted to be affiliated. I mean, directors, actors, everyone wanted to be a part of this. And like back in the old days, I was affiliated with the music business. I was in I had a record deal and stuff. But that's how they are. If there's
Mhm.
fire, everybody wants a part of it. And there was a lot of bidding wars for movies, bands, all kinds of stuff back in those days. And so anyway, so this guy had everyone in the world after him, and he finally ended up with Harvey Weinstein's a bad word now, but Miramax is a huge studio.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? At big money, that's big time. That's not a little
For
indie
sure.
film. That's a big time. And he finally ended up signing with them. And he was such a prima donna and so hard to work with and just difficult and just a huge pain in the ass that eventually they just said, you know what? F you and your movie. We don't want to even finish this project. And they just shit canned him. And so that movie should have had like Tom Cruise and like just
Wow.
like
But I'm
huge
glad
people.
it didn't.
No, I
I
know.
mean,
And so
yeah.
this guy has to go back to bartending. Which is, again, I can relate to that, and I need to watch this documentary again because, and I think there's 2 documentaries. I want to make sure this is the one I've seen, but you see footage of him on the phone cussing people out. What the blah blah, like this is not how I want this to go, and I'm like, dude. You don't have 10 movies under your belt. You're not
Yeah.
Spielberg. This is your first
Yeah.
film. He had such a huge ego that he acted like he was Spielberg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And except Spielberg's a nice guy and doesn't yell at people. From what I've heard, he's a pleasure to work with. This guy was acting like he was like he had the ground to stand on, and so they finally dumped him. And so he had to go back, and it took years before somebody came along and picked that movie up. And they're like, here, take your stupid movie. So I guess he got the rights back to his movie. They're like, we don't even want
Mhm.
anything to do with this. And then they remade it on a indie budget. Like
Mhm.
some distribution company threw some money in, and like they didn't have a huge budget at all. But this almost had like all the backing of any major film that you've ever seen. You know what I mean? And he completely blew it. Like it's crazy. And so, but again, you're right.
Mm.
Can you imagine? I mean, for all those of you in the chat and out there that are going to see this, that love this movie has such a huge cult following. It could have had someone other than Norman Reedus. It could have had somebody other than Sean Patrick Flannery. It could have had somebody other than Billy Connolly. And like all these people, Ron Jeremy's in this film. That gangster, the Italian mobster, is perfect. They're like, I love a
Yeah.
coke. That guy, he's perfect. Everyone in this movie is perfect. And it could have had some shiny, polished version of this movie. Could have been some a multiverse version with a bunch of variants in a shiny, polished version of this movie could have happened, and it could have sucked ass. Like it could have been terrible, and thank God it didn't. And we got what we got. So I think that's crazy. Once I saw this documentary, it really got me thinking. I was like, man, that sucks for that guy, but it's also awesome for that guy. And so now, like you said, we're about to get maybe Boondock Saints number 3. Number 2 wasn't that good, but number 3 hopefully will be better.
Yeah, I was just reading. They just now, and it's been reconfirmed several times, but I think it was in November of last year. They again reconfirmed Boondock Saints 3 is happening. The second one, if you haven't seen it, it does end on like a cliffhanger, kind of. So they almost have to make a part 3. And it's been tied up for a while because of Reedus and The Walking Dead and stuff like that. And it's not like he's ever or that I've found. I'm sure somebody could find something, but that I've seen where he's ever been like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm too famous now, or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just he's busy and stuff. And Yeah, like supposedly it's still happening. I think I saw something. It might start production in May of this year, but who knows?
Plus Powder 2, Powder's Revenge. That's not a real thing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the movie, man. When I
Yes, let's.
when I started watching this, like the first thing I haven't seen this movie in maybe 20 years. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. And the first thing I noticed, and knowing what I know about this movie, is the lettering and stuff at the bottom. I'm like, dude, this looks super jank and low budge. The lettering, like
I
we've got
noticed,
better
yeah.
lettering technology. Granted, this was the late '90s, early 2000s when this movie was made and came out, but I was like, God, this looks low budge. This looks straight to video. Um, and so the movie starts, and it starts in church, and then you got these two guys in church, and then the little girl starts to like look at him, and she's like, hey, don't look at them, you know. And then they get up, and then they walk up in the middle of mass and walk to the front, and then the priest is like, hey, and the guy starts to get up, you know, and he's like, hey, it's cool, it's the Boondock Saints,
Mhm.
chill out, you know what I mean. And they go and they do their prayer, and then they peace out, you know what I mean. And I thought that was, are you making a face?
It,
What's
well, no. I just didn't. I never, or I didn't. I didn't get that part because there weren't. There were some meatpacking guys at that point, right?
Yeah, but I
I don't
think that was a
know.
flashback.
Oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
I think it was a flash forward, but yeah, like everyone knew who they were. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Sandra's in the
Yeah, for
house.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knew who they were, and it was like the mom was like, "Don't look at him, kid." And then
Mhm.
like when they go up, the other priest is like, it starts to get up,
Yeah.
and he's like, "It's cool. Don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're the heroes of the neighborhood. Don't
Just,
just leave them
yeah.
alone." It's like that's Batman, basically.
Yeah.
Leave Batman alone, and I even wrote a note. Don't do it. It's the Boondock Saints. Yeah, and then then it shows a little of their history, and they get like a montage of the brothers, having fun and being, happy, fun-loving brothers, and. I was like, man, these guys are cuddly and happy. These are some of the funnest or like happiest guys that you've ever seen, you know. And it's like getting into trouble and hitting each other with meat and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is hilarious. I,
Getting E. coli and
just
salmonella.
yeah, I
It's a
mean,
blast. It's just
yeah, I'll take your E. coli and raise you a salmonella. Uh, Pow. What about the cross contamination of those two different? Apparently, they didn't get food handlers licenses. They don't know about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, and then
Boston's a big union town. I don't think they'd stand for that too much, but that's all right.
and then you have the large Marge, the lady he's training, and then she's like, oh, he's like, the rule of thumb is, oh, the rule of thumb, and they're like, rule of thumb. She goes off on a speech that I guarantee you that writer heard somebody telling that story where somebody got uptight at the bar and was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
the rule of thumb. You know what that comes from? Somebody back in the old times, they could beat their wives with a stick as long as it was smaller than their thumb." And I guarantee you heard that bartending. But yeah, and he's like, "Oh, they should have made it the wrist," and then they end up punching out the woman and all that, and it was kind of very apparent, and it started coming back to me, all of the jokes and funny things, and it was a reminder of like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in the '90s that showed up in movies that we wouldn't have today in this day and age. You know what I
Uh,
mean?
yeah, yeah. That's a very. I watch this movie fairly often. Probably once a year, something like that. Around Patty's, and yeah, it's still this year, or maybe I noticed it last year, but we just weren't. I knew we weren't going to be talking about it or something like last year, but it was yeah. A lot of it was very much like, oh, hey, wait, what are you doing? What are you talking about there? You can't say that like in just
Yeah.
certain thing, and uh, I don't know. I mean, you have to get across that these characters are bad guys. That's the thing. They are bad guys.
Are they bad guys?
Well, oh no, not necessarily that lady, but
No, the
some of
guy,
the
the Boondock Saints. Do you
yeah.
think they're bad guys?
No. I'm referring to the scene where Rocco's telling the joke.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
and
that's
like, and that's even Rocco doesn't want to say it. Like they're like they're basically making him say the N. He's telling a racist joke,
Yeah.
but he's trying to tell it somewhat clean or somewhat.
I haven't even gotten to that part yet. I was just talking about like the rule of thumb with the beating a woman with a stick as long, and then he's like, oh, you don't do much damage with a stick that big. They should have used the wrist as the measurement. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like stuff like even that is like, oh my
Well,
God, like there's people already tweeting about this conversation we're having, and we're just talking about a movie that we saw. You know?
well, and that, yeah, honestly, I think that they were just pushing their buttons out at a certain
Of
point because,
course.
like, that's the thing. I didn't know where that came from until I saw this movie. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, it's necessarily a good saying, but it's just a common saying that just the origins fell by the wayside, and then yeah, like at a certain point, they're just like pushing her buttons. They're like, all right, she's already pissed off. Let's push her over. You know,
Yeah,
like,
totally. And you know, it's funny. That's some stuff that happens in a lot of movies, like especially in the '90s. You get different things. For instance, and these are like uh, kind of off limits subjects, but they do it much like the True Romance
mhm.
conversation when he's talking to what's Christian Slater's dad's name? It's not James Caan. It's
Um, no,
I'm
it's
having
not
a
James
brain
Gunn.
fart. Anyway, and they're talking about and Christopher Walken, and they're talking about the Sicilians and the origins and people. You know, the Moors came over, and you're like, we can't talk about this
Yeah.
in 2022. You know what I mean? He's like, oh yeah, um, you're a cantaloupe. But in those conversations, they're like throwing history into these scripts, and then you have like stuff like in this movie where they're like putting pennies over their eyes, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, they do that to pay the to pay like to take their souls, and stuff,
Yeah.
and pay the toll, and it's funny. There's a lot of things like that, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, the stick." Like after everybody saw this movie, somebody goes off and is like, the stick was blah blah blah," and they're like, "Yeah, dude, we saw that movie too." But you get a lot of factoids for movies, and there are a lot of these movies like that. They jam pack them with interesting historical things. Uh, and I always really liked that, but it always cracked
Well,
me up when you'd end up in a situation where you're talking to people, you're at a party, you're at a bar or something, and you hear somebody acting like he knows something, and you're like, "Hey, dude, I also saw Pulp Fiction." Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone in here's seen Pulp Fiction. Shut up, you know. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
well, no, it's interesting too because I remember whenever first time I had seen, I think I'd watched it with Natchet or something. One of our buddies, and I was like, "That's not fucking true." And I mean, I'm not debating whether it's true or not, but I learned in school that we were learning about the what do they call it? The English imperial measuring system that only
Mm-hmm.
America still uses. Uh, that it was called that because uh, mercantilism was getting big. The king decided to make, I don't know what king. The king decided to make a unit of measurement that everyone would have to follow, and an inch was like the first bend in his thumb. That's about an inch. So if you're ever, that's about an inch. Um, and that's why a ruler is called a ruler because the king made the rules and
Ah,
stuff like
he's a
that.
ruler.
A foot was literally his foot, and a yard was how long, like one step, one stride of the king, and which was about 3 feet and stuff like that. And so that's why I was told by whatever teacher that that's why it was called rule of thumb because you can like if you need about an inch, you can like okay, the first section of your thumb, unless you got tiny hands, is about an inch. And I was like, that's fucking bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I believe the other one's true as well, but anyway, that's what a teacher told me. So
Yeah, well,
there you go.
and back in '99, everyone wasn't on already on Google. We couldn't pull our phones out and Google stuff yet. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, insertions of
Yeah,
information.
right. You can't be like, okay, you're wrong,
Hold
teacher.
on, let
Here,
me
look.
Google this. Mhm. Well, yeah, and I loved all of those like clever conversations. This movie's full of them. There's stuff
Hmm.
just sprinkled all over this movie. I like when they get to their apartment. Their
Mhm.
apartment is freaking gross. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
an
it's disgusting.
apartment is like a aggrandizement of their living situation.
It's like, dude, that looks like that's gross. It looks like a emo's bathroom. Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
No, now you remember the emo's bathroom.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really does. Yeah.
yeah, it was terrible.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And yeah, I think Bobby's right. Nose to the tip of the finger. That was a yard. I think that's what. Yeah, I think that's correct.
yeah, and then the Russians. Then they show the bar. They're hanging out in the bar, and then the Russians show up, where the guy from Over the Top shows up.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's really the guy from Over the Top, but the main Russian guy, he looks like
Hmm.
the main guy from Over the Top. Do you remember Over the Top, Sylvester Stallone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he
Oh yeah.
looks like the main guy with the handlebar mustache. But yeah, they show up, they end up kicking the guys' asses and then lighting their ass on fire. And
But w- wait. But what's great about this movie, the way it was filmed, you
mhm.
don't see that yet.
No.
Okay, yeah, that you just see two dead bodies in a dumpster. It cuts from them at the bar,
Yeah, well,
the Russians,
you
and then
see where they get into a fight, and then
yeah,
they cut it and they stop. And what's interesting is that they speak Latin or they speak Russian, and uh,
mhm.
and we're like, did he just speak Russian to them? I guess everybody in Boston and their neighborhood knows how to speak Russian,
Yeah, yeah,
and
sure.
yeah, and then it cuts to the alley, and then
Hmm.
you have the coffee detective, as I like to call him, uh, giving his theories about what went down, and that's when we get introduced to Willem Dafoe, which is who's fan freaking tastic in this movie. Willem Dafoe is hilarious, and he's so good at his job, and he's such a good actor. And I mean, this whole movie,
It
he makes this whole movie. Uh,
absolutely.
I really love how they built the perfect formula for this movie. Once it gets to this part, you're like, what the hell happened? All we know
Mhm.
is we saw trouble brewing and then it went down, but we don't know what happened. And you see the scene and you're looking at the scene and these guys are supposing what happened. They've got their theories and all that. And
Mhm.
Willem Dafoe
He's
shows up.
a big guy, like a 400-pound
Yeah.
guy, like yeah,
Yeah, they're all these stupid theories. And Willem Dafoe shows up and then he plays his Walkman and he's got the symphony and he's like, And then he gets in there and he starts figuring out what's going on. And then they show what happens. And it's brilliant because now for the rest of the movie, they made the perfect formula. Because the
mhm,
movie could trek on a little more, then it hits the fan again, and then they got to figure out and unwrap what happened. And every time they do, it's a beautiful nugget of gloriousness, like every one of these scenes in this movie, because as we said when we read the synopsis, these guys decide they kind of have an epiphany and decide that it's their responsibility to fight for justice and get rid of douchebags and evil. And so they spend the rest of this movie doing it. And it's awesome. Every single time they show up to a crime scene, you're just waiting. How did they do it? Because they get more ridiculous every time, it seems.
mhm.
Yeah.
And when I first saw this, and I still feel this a little bit, that I mean, Willem Dafoe is amazing. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's great in everything. But I did think his character was a little over the top, and it mainly hits in a later scene. This first scene, not really, um, but and I don't know if it was the writing or his acting or a combination of both, because he is a very big actor, or like
Mm-hmm.
he acts, you know, big, but he or a combination of both. But there's a scene later on, and it always bugged me a little bit, that he was a little bit over the top. Um, but they bring it back down, and even though his character gets a little more ridiculous, like they bring it back down, and it's just
Is it the
he's
bed scene?
spectacular. No, no, no. It's where he's the scene where he is trying to figure out when El Duce shows up, and he's trying to figure that scene out,
Oh, and he ends up in
and
the
he's like,
bushes?
Yeah, and he's like, who's doing this or whatever? Like it was just so.
Yeah, it was a little too much. Like
Yeah,
like before that, I think you're right.
and
It kind of because he kind of has it together and is like on top of it the whole time. You know what I mean? But let's save that for in a sec. We'll talk
yeah.
about like in the alley, he figures out what's up, and then he figures
Mhm.
out he sees some fragments of a toilet, and he figures out somebody dropped a toilet on this guy, and he figures this out, and then he said, "Hey, look around, see if there's anybody complaining about leaks and stuff," and he figured out what happened. And what had happened is that they end up beating up the Russians and then went back home drunk and laughing about it. And then the Russians showed up, came, got him at home, and then they end up with one of them getting Norman Reedus gets taken off. We're gonna kill your brother, and he is chained to the toilet, rips the toilet out of the floor, and then goes off. And meanwhile, they're coming out of the bottom. He ends up throwing the toilet off the roof of this building down onto the guy, and then jumps off the roof down onto the guy and crushing him. Yeah, because he jumped off the roof. The other guy got a toilet dropped on his head from up on the roof, and it's hilarious. And then the other brother takes the lid, beats the crap out of the guy, grabs the money, flings his brother over his shoulder, and hobbles off. And they're in robes, which is hilarious. These guys are wearing the dirtiest robes you've ever seen. They're white robes that are
Nastiest,
brown.
dirtiest.
It's like they scrubbed around that gas station floor that they live in. That their apartment looked like a damn gas station bathroom. And then meanwhile back at the Hall of Justice, back at the police station, you've got the cops are like, look, these guys are probably blah blah blah, you're not gonna find these guys ever, and this and that, and they just walk in the front door, like they hobble in their dirty ass nasty robes, and give themselves up. Hey, you're looking for us, and it's great.
Mhm.
And they're like, son of a bitch, I keep getting it wrong. And he's like, hey, why don't you get me a bagel to go with that coffee? There's the detective in the alley that was first giving him his theory. When Willem Dafoe shows up, he's like, hey, why don't you go get me some coffee? Because he's like amateur hour. It's super good. It becomes a
Eh,
bit.
Yeah, throughout the movie, yeah, like he's he gets in the bagel, and then like later on, he's like, "Does anybody else want anything?" I mean, you might as well.
Anybody need any coffee? Hey, and grab me a sweet and low while you're at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so they surrender. They get in there. They start talking to Willem Dafoe, burp, and they speak multiple languages. And he instantly charmed by these guys. These guys are nice guys. Everybody likes these guys. They speak multiple languages. Their mother was a good mom who trained them, and they're good dudes. Next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, this is a clear case of self-defense." Now, this movie is campy. Like it's over the top campy, but it's fun and violent also. Because some of the stuff that happens in this movie would never happen in real life. Like they're not just gonna like, you know what? Those were scumbags, and you guys are good guys. We're gonna go ahead and let you go. And clearly, you wouldn't do any of this stuff on purpose. You know what I mean? We
Right.
like. I mean, you're
Boys
bilingual.
will be boys.
Yeah, you're
Like,
bilingual. I mean, clearly. So but yeah, they let these guys out, and it's pretty awesome. And that's when it cuts to the joke, and we see Rocco, their buddy, and Ron Jeremy and the mobsters or the mobster, and they tell the infamous joke, uh, which we're not going to say on YouTube because we're not going to get canceled.
no,
We're not
no.
getting canceled, but it's like, oh, here's the
But
punchline. If all of that ethnic group are no longer in the country, and that ethnic group are no longer in the country, what else can I wish for? Oh, I'll have a Coke. And that's the joke, and and it's really funny. It's like that back in the '90s, you got away with a bunch of crazy stuff, and even now, like watching Peacemaker. Peacemaker's dad was a racist asshole, and says some crazy wild stuff that I was like, man, I can't believe they did that. And it's funny if it's in context of the character. uh it's so weird because we're living in a time where like everyone's getting offended, and it makes me wonder, like, okay, this guy is supposed to be a scumbag, so we can say these things that we couldn't ordinarily say because we're making art. Should we be doing that, or should we not be doing that because we don't want to offend people? It's a tricky, interesting conversation. You know what I mean? What do
Yeah,
you?
and but I think and at the same time, like two is as much as like you can straight up just watch, you know, exploitative or exploitation movies and certain films from that time and earlier where I mean they're just being offensive to be offensive.
Yeah,
Like and the 90s was starting to enlighten or people were starting to enlighten more and stuff like that. But at the same time you can see how it does kind of fit these characters because um Rocco's not a great guy, but he's not necessarily a scumbag either. And whenever he's telling the joke, um, he probably picks the joke because he knows the audience. You know, you got these two racist guys there, and then when he's telling the joke, they force him to say the N word. Basically, like he's telling the joke and he says like the African American or black guy, and they keep repeating the N word and stuff like that, and then until he finally says it. So he doesn't even want to. Like he's already more enlightened than these two, and like I don't
right,
want to
right.
be there's not any black people around or anything. It's not like he's gonna get caught. He's just being respectful because he doesn't want to use the word.
Is he
Um,
is he though,
and
or does he just feel inferior, like intimidated because he's close to the big boss, or do you think he doesn't want to say the word?
I mean, well, the boss specifically wants him to say it, like,
Yeah.
and so like that's what I mean. Like I don't think that like he's just a younger guy, and he's like, it's just not like why, it's not cool. Like just let it go, but they won't, and they make him. Um, and like that was the part of it like it does to me it fits the character. It's like it's not being over I'm a fucking white guy. It's not overly offensive. But and it does fit the character, but at the same time too, like someone else could be like, was that even necessary? I don't know. But
Yeah.
still a great film.
Yeah, it is a great film, and there's so many films. As we go back and watch older things, and it's like, I mean, you could go to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where Spicoli says some stuff that Sean Penn, I bet, wishes he could take back. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about he's like those guys, or it's like there's a lot of stuff like that. You got you know. You know how I know you're gay? You listen to Coldplay. You could go back to
Yeah.
40-year-old
And
virgin
that's
and things like that, to where it's like, is
that's
that is that okay
much
now, or is that not okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
that's I mean much more recent movies too. That's yeah,
yeah,
like not
that's what.
even this is a 25-year-old movie.
Yeah. Oh, they weren't saying it to be malicious, and it's like somebody else feels like it's malicious. It's a crazy
Well,
it's a crazy world that we're living in, where it's like to even have to have this conversation.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like I get other people's or I don't know if this would be them. I'm not trying to speak for them. Their argument, but the same time too. Yeah, they probably would be like, yeah, it's not being malicious. Yes, it's portraying this character. Blah blah blah. But the thing is, like when you see it in every fucking movie and you hear it in every movie, you're like as one of the as a minority person, like you get tired of it. Like I don't want like
Yeah.
can we not that's an argument as well. Like can we just not have it? So because that stuff like I'm a white guy, it just rolls off my back. I don't think about it again until like I see it or it's blatant. Um, but that stuff adds up to people when it matters.
It's like making Nickelback jokes. Do we really have to make more Nickelback jokes? Like, we've made all the jokes. Like, can we move on? Like, do we have to keep making Nickelback jokes? I'm just kidding.
Just for the fans out there, we'll continue making Nickelback jokes. Don't let Clint's
All
rant
day.
like.
Yeah. All day. Never made it as a wise man. Um
Look at this photograph.
Yeah, so all right, let's move on with the movie. So they tell the joke, I love a Coke. And then they go shopping for supplies. Now they got money and guns, and they need more. They need more guns, and they go in, And another one of my favorite parts is again is a scene with Willem Dafoe, and he's answering the phone, and his lover is trying to cuddle with him, and
Mhm.
and he keeps smacking him like, "Hey, get off!" And the guy's like, "I just want to cuddle," and it's hilarious. And I'm not going to say that one either, but that it's super funny.
Yeah, and like that's interesting to me too. I'd be interested to know how gay people feel about that role nowadays because honestly, I've known gay men like that.
Yeah, that are like
Like
macho kind
yeah,
of like.
and I mean, so I mean, again, that's kind of an accurate portrayal, um,
But also, is it
but
okay?
and
Is it not okay because he's not gay playing that character? Like, and so he shouldn't be able to make that joke, but so
well,
maybe
that's a
somebody else.
whole
It's like a
different
whole
conversation.
semantics, you know. Anyway,
That's a whole yeah.
go ahead though. What were you?
No, yeah, I would be interested in seeing how so many people feel about that role now, and it's uh, such a good portrayal. But again, I don't know. It's weird that we haven't talked about this stuff now, but I'm glad we
I
are.
know it's fun.
Like,
It's funny that like this. It's like, yeah, one of my favorite movies, but it's riddled with
but
a
that's the
lot
thing,
of difficult conversations. You know what I mean?
and that's the thing too is that we are trying to not. I don't want to offend somebody. Like I'm not trying to offend. We're not trying to offend people. Like that's why we're being careful. That's what you know. But this movie is portraying real people, and there are a lot of real people who are way shittier than any actor's portrayal in these movies. So, like, if you're going to try to portray real people, guess what? A lot of real people suck. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of them. Like, so, if you want to portray it correctly, like that's just the way it is.
So while they're in custody, let's get back to the thing. So
Mhm.
while they're in custody, while they're in jail, they stay in jail because they don't want the mobsters to get them right away. So they're like, "Hey, is it all right if we hey Mel, is it all right if we stay in for a minute?" So they stay in jail for a little while, and they have this revelation while they're in there,
Mhm.
and they end up uh, getting divine wisdom and like basically understanding that they're supposed to hurt the bad people and that this is their responsibility, and this is why they're the Boondock Saints. This is their job to do this now, and so they go off to do this, and they end up getting information about some mob leaders, um, and they go to the hotel with their supplies. They went and gunned up, and they make some jokes about the rope. They're really clever about dropping these. They pull the pin and throw this grenade, and then they wait so it could blow up later. And
Mhm.
they do it all throughout the movie, and that's clever writing. It's good writing. Um, you can do that to where it's like, oh, okay, they're going to have something with this rope later. There's a lot of movies and things that you see. We all do. We watch these TV shows, and you're like, watch, he's going to die. Like, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
could
Oh yeah.
predict.
Oh
You
yeah.
could predict a lot of these. This movie's really good about having situations like that aren't that easy to predict, and that's why I think so many people love this movie. Like, um, we're talking about Boondock Saints right now. If you don't know what that is, remember these guys? That's right. Um, the
If
Green.
you don't know, wait, put it back up there for a sec. If you don't know what Boondock Saints is, then look at this photograph.
Oh, geez. So anyway, uh, so yeah, so they go in and they basically figured out from watching movies and TV how to go execute these dudes. And they go in, they get in a fight in the attic, and they fall through the ceiling, and their feet get hooked onto the rope, and like they end up dangling upside down and have this over the top crazy thing where upside down swinging and turning, they end up shooting everybody in the room, which is hilarious that somebody made this movie. They're like, I want this scene where they fall through the ceiling and they're hanging upside down spinning and they shoot everyone in the room. um that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they're right in the center, and they basically got a 360 degree, shooting angle, so they just wipe everybody out.
Yeah, and he probably had this conversation at his bar. John Travolta and Tom Cruise sitting around him, and Miramax saying, "Oh yeah, I can totally see it. I love it. I'm loving it." Yeah, um,
And
crazy.
Gilbert Godfrey was there for some reason.
Yeah, he's like, I can see what you're going for. It's gonna be a great movie. All right. No, so like, yeah,
Lots
so
of spinning,
and this is
spinning
where
and shooting.
lots of spinning and shooting and spinning and shooting and spinning and shooting. And so yeah, that's how they get the pennies in the eyes. They go in and find all these dead people with pennies in their eyes. And it's good stuff, you know. I'm gonna have like Gilbert Godfrey Tourette's where I just randomly bust into stuff. Yeah, and then they end up back in. And they have Rocco shows up. Now Rocco, their buddy, who's Italian, he shows up. He was originally supposed to go in there and assassinate somebody, and they sent him in there as a setup because there was like 8 guys in there, and he thought it was only like a couple of guys. So he went in there with like 6 bullets. He would have never made it out of there alive. And it just so happened, divine intervention happened, and they're like, who's at the door? Holy crap, it's Rocco. Let's mess with him. And they scare the hell out of him. And then they end up going back to his apartment. And now he wants to be part of the gang. He wants to be one of the Boondock Saints because he's like, dude, it's his best friends. I loved that they lit a cigarette on the stove because I've done that many a time. Like,
Oh yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that reminded me of the old days of lighting I used to light a cigarette on the toaster also. Do you remember that? You ever done that?
I haven't done that one.
A toaster
I remember being a kid and my
and lighting
grandma
a
being
cigarette?
like, yeah, it was like, go light this on the stove for me. I'm like, okay, grandma.
Yeah, a toaster lights up. It lights up way faster than the stove. So you, yeah. I'm happy that I quit smoking. So but back in the 90s, that was the stove, the whole stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff. It made me want to go. Maybe want to go to a coffee shop and smoke cigarettes in a coffee shop and like hang out and do 90s stuff. Watching this movie, I was having some serious flashbacks. Even like music nostalgia too. So Rocco goes. They tell him, Rocco, this was a setup. No, yeah, it was a setup. No, they wouldn't do that to me, and it was a setup, dude. These guys are trying to hurt you. He goes back, ends up murdering, and finds out what they were right. It was a setup. Ends up murdering everyone in the cafe, and and then goes back with these guys, and then they plan to go kill Ron Jeremy, who is at a nasty strip club with one of those rooms that have the peep show like Madonna was in Open Your Heart to Me. Remember that song? She's in one of those peep shows. Yeah, and again, it's like they go in and then you don't see what happens, and then you have Willem Dafoe show up and they unleash and let you see what happens, and it's awesome. What are you thinking at this point in the movie?
Well, no, it's great too because at that time, like, because Willem Dafoe's figured out like, okay, it's 2 guys. Like he knows it's 2 guys, and then he's like, there had to be why would they kill these guys? And he's like, and it's so sloppy. And then he like knows that bullets from this gun are only over here and then only over here, except for like a few shots. And he realizes that Rocco's stupid ass is like
Wyatt Earp. Yeah, he's like Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, he's Wyatt Earp. Yeah, that's what he says.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, so they must have got a third guy, because this guy's an amateur, and then they cut to it, and it's this.
It's the Peep Show murders
already.
What's that?
Pulp Fiction had already come out at this point, right?
Pulp Fiction had come out like years before that. There was a lot of stuff in this movie.
94. But he'd been trying to sell it before, or he had before it was made in 99. So,
Why
And
are
Pulp
you
Fiction's not exactly the same.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
what are
No,
you bringing up about Pulp Fiction?
well, because stylistically, Pulp Fiction, it's not exactly the same. But like you don't, but the way he does it is uh, so smart, and it's so entertaining the way he portrays a story in that manner. Not the whole movie, like with Pulp Fiction, it's kind of like jumping from story to story and then flashbacks and flash forwards
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Um,
Well,
but in this one, it's it's you're seeing it through the eyes of the detective and the um, protagonist, and this guy doesn't get as much credit.
well, for
Seemingly, I mean, obviously it's a cult classic, but go
well,
ahead.
what
I'm sorry.
about before they light that cigarette on the stove when they're in their apartment? Before Rocco runs back, says, "I need to go." They're hanging out, and Rocco accidentally shoots Marvin in the face. Except it's not Marvin in the back seat; it's the cat. He
Straight up the cat,
kills a
yeah.
cat. But I was like, dude, that's like he's like, boom, oop. I accidentally shot Marvin in the face, is what I said as soon as I saw that cat. Forgot all about the cat scene. And I go, dude, they totally jacked that from Pulp Fiction. And there's another thing in here somewhere, too, that I made a note where I was like, dude, Pulp Fiction, man.
But see, I wonder too, because whenever you were talking about the Miramax thing, and I'm not trying to start some conspiracy theory, but whenever you were like, yeah, take your movie back, uh, Miramax was probably like, we've already got like 3 guys writing rip-offs of this right now, like, go
Yeah.
ahead and take your movie. Like, we've already read it, and we got 3 guys, writing rip-offs of it right now. Who produced Pulp Fiction?
I don't know. It might have been Miramax. Django Unchained is a vigilante. Yes, he is.
That's true.
This is true. Yeah, well, so after this murder scene and the Wyatt fucking Earp thing from the Peep Show murders, you see the main mobster guy go over and talk to a retired mobster guy, and he needs to get Il Duce, the Duke.
Mhm.
He's like, I need him. And this is some legendary badass that the mob calls on whenever things are getting super intense and they need some results. They call this guy, and this guy's like a legend. You don't see El Duce. El Duce sees you. Like El Duce
Just like that.
doesn't sleep. He waits.
He's like the '90s version of that James guy, basically.
That's right. That's right. So, and El Duce is played by John Cleese. No, it's not. It's Billy Connolly, man. Come on.
Get it together, Baker.
Yeah, it's Travelocity.com. Nope, that's the wrong guy, dude. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been watching so much Monty Python. There's a 6-episode Monty Python documentary on Netflix that I've been watching that I've got like John Cleese on the brain. And so yeah, and I knew it was Billy Connolly, but for a good 20 minutes I was like, dude, John Cleese is going to show up later. And then when he showed up, I'm like, he looks a little bit different. Is that it? Oh, you're an idiot. That's what I was like, oh, whoops, my bad. But
You're not. I'm glad you mentioned it first because literally every time I'm talking, and it would have happened tonight, and it's probably going to happen tonight. Like I'm like, yeah, and then John Cleese, and everybody's like, no, like that's not the same guy. I'm like, but at least nowadays I don't get into the argument. I used to like even I knew that it wasn't because somebody had already proven it to me. I'd be like, yes, it is. Blah 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 blah. And again, this is before Google,
Well, so the mobsters, getting back on track here, the mobsters, they think that Rocco has done all this. They're like, Rocco's going around killing everybody. If he turns state's evidence, we're all screwed. He could take down the whole Italian crime syndicate. And that's why they that's why they need El Duce, who's basically like practically Silence of the Lambs restrained in prison. They lead him out in chains, and they make a real big production about it. Let him out, and the Boondock Saints and Rocco go to a poker room to kill this one bad guy. They're like, okay, who do you want to get now that we killed Ron Jeremy? Who do you want to get? Well, there's this one bad guy, kills women and children. He's a real douchebag. All right, let's go get him. So they go to get him, and the guy's in the bathroom when they go in there to make the hit, and it's a really fun action sequence. And when they finally get done, and they basically initiate Rocco, he gets to take it out on this guy that he thinks is a real scumbag, and they let him fight. Like they could have intervened and helped, but they're like, no, this one's for you, and they just roll him a cue ball, and he beats the hell out of him with a cue ball, and gets it done. And on their way out, El Duce's waiting for him. Ron Jeremy also died in One-Eyed Monster. His One-Eyed Monster died in the Peep Show also. Yeah, and so they all get hurt. They all get shot by El Duce, and they get ambushed and get shot, and there's blood sprays and stuff. And this is when it gets to the scene that Curtis was talking about. Willem Dafoe shows up. He is really at his wit's end, doesn't know who's doing all these murders. It's getting crazy. He starts going over the situation. There's blood, and the blood samples aren't even good because they were so good. I don't know if they just watch murder movies or what, but they sprayed ammonia all over their blood samples, and there's no trace of them except Willem Dafoe finds a finger. And he does this really over-the-top thing, like, I can't figure out, these guys are that good. And he falls into the bushes, and he finds a finger. And this is where it gets really interesting, because he ends up getting drunk, going to a bar, ends up going into a confessional to get some advice from, because that's what you do when you spend all night in a gay bar, drinking, and you come out and the sun comes up. This is like one of those Hollywood things, because I don't even think they have 24-hour bars, but he was staying in a bar all night. Maybe it was a private club. Stayed in a bar all night, and then stumbles into a confessional, and then Rocco goes in there, and which I'm surprised they didn't kill his ass for you know what I mean, for that.
They would have.
Yeah. What else would you do? Exactly. But
as you do, yeah.
Long story short, what they find out is that Willem Dafoe actually knows who they are, but he agrees with what they're doing because they're actually killing bad guys, and he respects it. Over the top respects it, and to the point where next thing you know, they end up on the phone with Willem Dafoe and talking to him and tell him everything. And so now you have a Commissioner Gordon situation where you have Willem Dafoe, who's the head guy at the police, head detective on this case, and he actually approves of your murders, which is another crazy concept. Which I'm like, that would never happen. Yeah.
Well, like one thing that. Well, no, go ahead. We'll keep going. I'll bring it up later whenever it happens. Well, it already happened, but what confused me. Yeah. So he's agreeing with him, and he figures out that he is that they're going after the head Italian guy.
Yeah, well, and because they said, yeah, it was one guy, because that's what he was like. This had to have been 6 guys, and the coffee guy was like, what if it was, that was kind of funny too. What if it was just one guy? And he's like, really? Give me a cream cheese bagel or whatever, but it actually was one guy. Nobody could do that.
The one time he was right.
Except El Duce. And so when they tell him, hey, it was one guy, he's like, I know who did this. So he goes to talk to the old mob guy, finds out, and then says, yeah, and that guy tells him, yeah, every gun in town is over at so-and-so's house right now. And he's like, oh, shoot, this is a trap. And these guys, the Boondock Saints are about to go into a trap. I've got a sense. I've got to go help. Yeah, so then what happens?
So it cuts to the mobster's house, and then they already have him. They said they would caught him sneaking into the basement, and they're trying to get Rocco to talk. They blow off his other pinky, and then uh, some of the other mob guys are like, Rocco's a dumbass. These two brothers, they're the brains, so they kill Rocco.
Yeah. Oh, but also before you mentioned the pinky, let's not skip over. After they got shot up, they go back to the apartment and like straight up wild men.
Yep.
Take an iron and heat it, because that's what you do. You heat up an iron till it's scalding, glowing red, and you burn your wounds.
Yep.
Because
you don't bleed to death.
That's right. You got to bite down on this wallet or this stick, and we're gonna burn those bullet holes. So that's what they did, like just like in the old Viking movies. So anyway, fast forward back to the where we were. I forgot to mention that. I was like, oh my god. Yep. They're gonna cauterize his finger wound. Yep, there it is. Just like a damn Viking movie. Okay.
And so they go ahead, they shoot Rocco, they kill Rocco. And the boys freak out, and the boss leaves. He's like, I'm out of here, y'all handle these guys. And they're they're trying to break out. And while this is happening, the doorbell rings after the boss has left, and there's a beautiful woman at the door.
Is there now?
Well, apparently these mafioso guys think so. I've seen many men who can pull off beautiful women, but
I've
Willem
seen
Dafoe
some
just
beautiful
isn't
drag
one of
queens.
them. Yes,
Yeah,
very beautiful drag queens.
He is not one of them.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. Not even if it was a full-on woman, I'd be like, you can kind of leave. Just like go. Like, just we're good here. Like, but he says that he was sent for as the female character said she was sent for entertainment, and they fall for this. The boys break out, and they
don't they don't break out, do they?
well, they break. They get out of their cuffs. What's Sean Patrick Flannery kick? Like he has to kick the handcuff off of Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus does this bit with his hand, and he's like,
so
okay,
it basically skins his hand. Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And so they get out of that, and they're getting ready to make their move whenever somebody comes in. Well, Willem Dafoe is seducing one of the mafioso guys, and his wig starts to fall off, and then ends up killing him. And he's walking around.
Not,
and it's
not with the wig. He kicks him in the nuts a bunch of times, and then shoots him in the head. His wig fell off and killed the Italian mobster.
Like, oh my god! He and it's just great seeing him run around that mansion in high heels. He's like,
oh, it's terrible, dude. It's traumatic.
It's so funny though. Like,
it is funny.
Go ahead. And then I know they get out, but
yeah. So they put pennies on Rocco's eyes because Rocco got killed, and then they start saying the family prayer. And at this point, El Duce gets into this house and is about to kill these guys, and slips into the room because El Duce is a badass. And this is a family prayer earlier in the movie.
But real quick, good point. That's the mafioso guys are telling the boss, like, El Duce still thinks the job's on. He's gonna come in and kill everybody.
Yeah, that's why he bails. He's like, I gotta get out of here. He's like, I gotta get out. You guys are on your own. I'm out of here because if El Duce's in killing mode, it's on. So and earlier in the movie, like they plant another grenade where Rocco is like, dude, that prayer you guys do is sick. Can you teach it to me? And they're like, nope, it's a family prayer. We've had it for generations in our family. You can't do that. That's our shit. You can't have that. Oh man, you know. And then so by the end of this, Rocco's dead. They're putting pennies on his eyes and they're praying for him. And El Duce's about to kill these guys because he's a badass. He's in there. He sneaks up on them, and then he hears what they're saying, and he hears a family prayer, and then he starts saying it with them, and we all, us, them, El Duce, you and I, everyone involved realizes, holy shit, this is their dad, and like it's like no wonder everybody in Hollywood was up this guy's ass for you know, for his movie. There's so many little things, little dominoes that he set up for this that have payoffs that are like, I'm gonna have this here and it's gonna pay off here. We're gonna do this, it's gonna pay off here. And it's so well written with all these little payoffs that all kind of sync together at the end. And so now they're reunited, and then it just cuts to 3 months later. And at this point, the movie's fairly resolved for the most part. And it's 3 months later. That mobster is on trial, and he's super cocky. They're like, dude, this guy's the next. What's his name? I was going to say Jimmy Hoffa. That's not the right guy. The next. What's that mobster guy?
Capone or
no. I can't think of him right now. You guys know who we're talking about. But anyway, El Duce. I was reading a comment. Yeah, this guy's a super charismatic guy, not scared, has fantastic lawyers. And then these guys come in and they do a little speech and just let the world know, okay, everyone, we are the Boondock Saints. And we don't tolerate your BS. They say it way more poetically, but if you're a bad guy and you're
no, that was verbatim. That was good.
If you're a bad murderer or a cheater or killer, or if you need to fear us like Gotham City fears the bat signal, because we will come for you. We are the Boondock Saints. And then they say their prayer and execute this guy in the courtroom in front of everyone. This is a high-profile case, and then it ends. And they execute this guy. And
yes.
Gotti, yes. Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, and he's like, basically this guy's like a cocky, like John Gotti guy getting off crimes and all that. And it's like and they're like, no, not in our courtroom. Maybe in your courtroom. You can be somebody who gets convicted of crimes or get off, don't even get convicted, and get away with stuff. But in our courtroom, which we brought in here, this is my courtroom. This guy's guilty, and they put the hammer down on him, and it's all over for that guy. And I love how after that, it cuts to them hanging out with their dad, and he says, do you have do you possess the Constitution to go as far as is needed? I thought it was a cool line. You know, and they're like, we're doing what needs to be done. Do you think I don't remember how he sets up the question. I think it's like, how far do you think we're gonna have to go? And it's like, we're gonna have to go a long way, but do you possess the Constitution to do, you know, to go as far as needed, which tells us like they're gonna wreck some shop. Like they're basically like, okay,
just getting started.
We're just getting started. We're about to F some stuff up, and I love it. And some of my favorite stuff in this movie is that's right, family. The end of this movie, during the credits, they show news teams talking to the public. And it's very familiar because they're kind of being over the top, but it's very familiar to what we're living in, the world we're living in right now, where they're super polarized. And you'll have somebody be like, dude, I back what they're doing. They need to kill them all, you know? And they're like, what are you talking about? That's not fair. Like, you know, who are these guys? They're not the judge, jury, and executioner, you know? And like, and I think, you know, what do you mean? How could, like, people disagreeing whether they're doing the right thing or not?
Two friends standing there, like two friends standing
arguing.
there. They're like what?
Yeah,
Like,
it's very familiar with all the craziness in this world, and there's two sides to everything, and like they no, like they hit it right on the head with the clickbaity uh, media and stuff, asking these difficult questions and having the world disagree about the answers is pretty cool. I really enjoyed this movie, man. I hadn't seen it in a long time. There was some cringy moments on some of the stuff that like again on these older movies. There's a lot of stuff that wouldn't fly today, and I wonder if it's better that we have that stuff because like do you really want to live in a world that's like sugar coated and we're all protected from shielded from everything and like I think if there's some dark stuff in the world in art and we're able to distinguish like hey that's how we don't want to be and that's a douchebag or that's a scumbag and but like shielding and pretending that stuff's not there I don't believe in I think
mm,
if it's something that I don't like I won't watch it you know what I mean like uh,
right.
and I think people, it's like, would you want somebody to go back and edit this movie where they take that part out, like any of the bad stuff out of this? Um, you know what I mean?
No, well, no, that's what I mean. That's part of my point. It's like, and then you made a good point about the dark parts of art. Like I enjoy those probably more, because it makes the heroes shine brighter. So showing that these guys are bad and within context, like stuff like this is necessary. Well, and necessary is a strong word too, but like it makes them more like we said, like real people, like shitty real people. And
I,
it makes the story more fluid, I guess.
yeah, agreed. I don't know if it was you I was having this conversation with, but it was talking about Christopher Columbus. Was that you? It was a video talking about
I don't
Christopher.
know.
It was a video about Christopher Columbus, and this girl was like saying, uh, like. The, that Christopher Columbus had said something about the like what would be considered underage girls now. You know what I mean? It was like
Right.
an uncomfortably young age where like, oh, and there's a lot of girls that are around this age and all that. And we're like, oh, yeah. Oh, so not only was Christopher Columbus a, pillaging scumbag that conquered North America, and it's like, whoa, 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 time out, man. Do you think that he was a woke, like well-adjusted, normal guy? Like, do you think any of these conquerors that got in a wooden boat and went across the
Right.
ocean are completely like
Like,
are
let's think
are
about their feelings first, guys.
considerate of
Wait,
people's
wait.
feelings? No, they traveled the oceans to go take land and conquer, and part
Yes.
of that is pillaging and doing terrible things, and they gain the riches. That's what a conqueror does, and that's what they were doing. So
Yeah.
it's hilarious though. I think we should cancel Columbus Day because blah blah blah. I'm like maybe we should, but like to have the idea that like you think you think Christopher Columbus wouldn't use the N word? No, I'm like you know what I mean like that
Well,
guy
yeah. I
he
mean,
was a scumbag murderer. I'm sure you know what I mean. That's part of the that's all of them. Yeah,
well,
Amerigo
what's good now?
Vespucci, Eric the Red, like Leif Erikson, anyone, all those traveling people. I guarantee you killed people, all of them.
Yeah, that was kind of their job. Like that's, like you know, you go and you conquer. Like was life back then. Um, what is good is that they do. Some schools are actually calling it Indigenous Peoples Day, where you celebrate Indigenous peoples. And then, but if not, it kickstarts at least I don't think it's a full month, but like at least a week or two of Indigenous people studies that none of the kids pay attention to, but you sit there with them for 30 minutes and talk about it. So, um, they wouldn't listen to Christopher Columbus stuff either. So don't get me wrong, they just
Yeah,
don't care. Like,
I'm I'm not saying don't get this twisted around like I'm saying that's shouldn't be celebrated and appreciated, but like like it's kind of interesting to me that as you turn the clock back and look further back, like you'll have the Gauls. The Gauls conquered these people, and different Germanic tribes that conquered other people, and like you could keep going back in time and or like, hey, I've got Norwegian blood, and we were conquered by the
Mhm.
so and so's, like or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's like,
Yeah. Well,
it's interesting to me that it's like that we're on the very edge of history and like demanding, demanding payback and for things that have happened on the very edge of recorded history, that because it's still fresh. But like if you roll it back, dude, there's been terrible things happening for forever. Like actually,
but the thing is, you don't even have to roll it back. It's still happening literally to this day.
well, yeah, that
Like,
too.
that's my point is, like, I'm glad that we have these conversations. Like, there's no point in just, offending people or hurting people unnecessarily. Like, it's to me, I just believe that there's not a real point in it. Um, but at the same time, like, there are plenty of people who still believe that might makes right is the one golden rule. If you've got you're in charge, you got the power, you take what you want. It's being proven literally right now. So yeah, you don't even have to rewind history. We can't change human nature. We can't. I mean, it's part of evolution. The biggest animal is like that's the ringleader. That's the boss. Um, and we are hopefully getting past it, but that doesn't mean like we're not dragging rest of the world with us necessarily.
Yeah,
And um,
which
hopefully they'll come willingly. It might take a lot longer though.
it's interesting too is there's also like sometimes sometimes these things don't even get reported in the news. There's a lot of things that happen in the world where like, certain things will get reported in the news. We're seeing a lot of cover like
Right.
Ukraine coverage, but there's stuff in there's people in Africa that are getting mutilated, like on the
And
reg. You know what I mean? That it doesn't even show. It doesn't even get covered. There's other things in the that have
well,
gone down. Other
and I've
wars that have
heard
gone down in recent history that didn't even get coverage. It's weird.
yeah, I've heard people making the argument saying like, nobody covered Syria like this. Like Syria was, you know, just as bad or way worse, and nobody covered it,
Yeah.
because it's not an Eastern European nation. Like, so they didn't care. I mean, and their point, I mean, it was like wasn't a bunch of white people, so they didn't care. They didn't cover it. I mean, I'm not saying they're right to they're wrong. Y'all decide that, but like, I do not remember this coverage in Syria, like, and all that stuff. They definitely covered it because we were supporting them over there and stuff like that, but it wasn't,
Yeah. To this
like
extent.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild, man. It is wild. Well, other travesties that have happened in the world are having your gold stolen. Um,
That's probably I mean, I can't imagine anything worse. I'm sure there are things out there that are worse, but
and you're a human. If you were a leprechaun, how would you feel if someone stole your gold? This is the question
I,
we're going to talk about right
I,
now as we talk about
yeah.
the leprechaun. Someone stole me gold. What a
I
joyous.
want me gold.
Now I'm going to confess, I only saw the beginning of this movie and didn't get to finish it because I've had a lot of stuff going on. But the intro was quite delicious. I've got to say, and I got to say I love Warwick Davis. I think he's fantastic. Uh,
Mhm.
uh what is it? Wicket and
Wicket,
yeah, and he was Willow, and
Willow. I think it was R2D2 as well, wasn't he? I think he was in
yeah, you are correct, sir. And we're gonna give you the synopsis real quick to this movie. The release date was 1993. Oh boy, Dan O'Grady steals 100 gold coins from a leprechaun, who's Warwick Davis, while on vacation in Ireland. It wasn't a vacation. It was just because his mom died, I thought.
Yeah, the funeral. Yeah.
Yeah. The leprechaun, maybe he's, I don't know, it's a vacation. The leprechaun follows him home, but Dan locks the murderous midget in a. We can't say midget, can we? Murderous, it's alliteration. I guess it
We're
works
quoting. We're quoting.
we're quoting. I guess this synopsis was written in 93. Okay. Locks the murderous little person, that doesn't roll off the tongue the same way, in a crate, held at bay by a 4-leaf clover. Because when you want to lock a leprechaun in a crate, if you put a 4-leaf clover on top, it can't get out. 10 years later,
Mhm.
J.D. Redding and his daughter, Tori, who is played by Jennifer Aniston, this is her first role ever, rent O'Grady's property for the summer. When their new neighbors accidentally release the leprechaun, he goes on a murderous rampage to get his gold. What a joyous movie, man. What? How do you feel about this movie?
Mel says diminutive dwarf still not PC, so they're
Diminish.
getting
Mm.
uh, yeah, weren't ringing any bells there, but so I love this.
Hideous half pint? No, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not good either. um,
Um, I'll.
I love this. I love this. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I could go over the intro of the movie if you want, or if you want to take the whole one, you can go too. But you say you love this movie because why? I didn't mean to cut off your rant. You sound like you're about to get into some goodness.
No, well, I love this movie. I love this series, and Bobby's right. Kenny Baker was R2D2.
Oh, that's right.
Uh, I love this series. Although this series gets freaking crazy. We're just gonna talk about the first one, but I went ahead and rewatched most, or if not, or all of them. Um,
Oh.
but it's a very strange movie. But it's a like a it's just good. like it's a very good film. Um,
Take a sip of your beer. I saw you were wanting to. While you do that,
mhm.
I'll say this: these movies have come like they've done some crazy stuff to where they've like almost followed Jason's pattern of the things that he's done. There's like 8 movies, and like they even go into space. You know what I mean? Like Jason Voorhees, like it's hilarious, and also like this movie was supposed to be a serious movie. It wasn't supposed to be funny. And Warwick Davis's personality shined through, and it made it a fun. He did some ad libbing and stuff. I read, and it turned it into a fun movie. And they're like, you know what? I think this is a better spin on this movie than making it a serious. Can you imagine if they took this movie seriously? Come on.
Yeah, it so it was supposed to be a serious horror at first. And what's interesting, like Warwick Davis apparently couldn't get work at the time. Like he was after Willow, like he just couldn't get any work. And he really wanted this role as the vertically challenged villain.
That's good alliteration right there.
That's good. Stan Lee would be proud. Um, but he really wanted this role because he needed work too. But he like he didn't like the makeup, but he was like, he really enjoyed playing the role because he wanted to play something more villainous. He'd been Wicket and he'd been Willow and he'd done other roles, but he wanted to play something more villainous, and he kind of really reveled in it. So it started as they wanted to make a serious horror film. And then once they saw his portrayal and stuff, they were like, you know what? Let's make this like a family movie, like a family, kind of like a family friendly kind of, horror ish movie. And then they kind of went back and they were like, no. So they stuck some more gore in, and we got what we got. But to me, it is kind of like a family friendly horror movie. Like it's, I watch it with my kids, and like they're fine with it. And like even my son, so we put out some gold chocolate coins. We're like, oh, my wife was like, oh, look, a leprechaun dropped them off and this and that. And my son's like, good thing they're chocolate, not real gold, because I wouldn't take it if it was real gold. Like, like there you go, son. Don't take that leprechaun's gold. It's not worth it.
That's right.
Um,
I
But so yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I liked how it started out and in the beginning the old Lincoln. There's an old Lincoln limousine coming driving up to his house, and
Hmm.
it reminded me of like my dad used to have a Lincoln back in the old days. It reminded me, but this was a limousine, and the
Hmm.
rich Irish guy shows up in the beginning and
Uh-huh.
tips the chauffeur. But I loved how he just threw the Jameson bottle in the front yard. I'm like, really, dude? You're gonna litter? You're littering in your? Is that how rich you are now? You're gonna litter in your own front yard? That's the first thing I noticed. And then he says, he tells his wife, I caught a wee person and made him show me where his gold was. And I go, really? Did you just say you caught a wee person? Uh, and what was even better is that the wife, he cracked open the urn and they had the gold in it instead of the ashes,
Mhm.
and the wife had no reaction. Like, oh, you
Yeah.
have gold? She had zero reaction. Like, wait,
She's like, "You're drunk. Get the
yeah,
hell
you're
out of here."
drunk. Go to bed. You. She didn't even. She didn't have a reaction to the Jameson bottle thrown in the front yard. She was like, "What are you doing in this car?" And then look, I've got gold coins. And she just kind of completely oblivious. And I was like, "Wow." And then she didn't say, "Hey, don't say we person. That's not nice." Yeah. So anyway, I'm passing you the reins. That was the intro. I saw up to the point where she died, in the beginning, and he had and where he busts out the clover and all that stuff. But I thought it was cool. They busted in some. They came in with some like Irish lore and superstition and stuff. So tell me about the movie since I didn't get to watch it today.
No problem, no problem. And Bobby says a Drop Dead Fred kind of movie. That's a very good analogy. Yeah, because if you haven't seen Drop Dead Fred, it's freaking spectacular. But it's like, is this a family movie? I don't know if it is. Like, can my kids watch this? And you're like, yeah, they can watch it because most of the adult humor goes over their head. But yeah, that's a very good analogy. Um, so O'Grady comes back from his mom's funeral, and he's in the limousine, like you said, and he's got his um, mom's ashes in the urn. And like you said, when they break them open, it's full of a bag of gold. And his wife is pretty much like, "You're drunk. Get the hell out of here." And he says, I caught a leprechaun, and once you catch them, they have to give you their gold. Now, it doesn't explain how he caught this fucking leprechaun, which you'll see throughout the movie. Like that's like the biggest feat of the entire film. Um, and uh, so he he leaves. And whenever he leaves, and you find out later he's going to hide the gold. He goes and hides it in an old truck. Um, the wife hears like a child's voice, like going, "Can you help me? I can't breathe." And it's coming from his suitcase. And she's just, and again, like not a huge reaction, like, "What the fuck?" She's like, "Oh, that Dan O'Grady," like,
He brought
and there she's
kids
like,
from Ireland again.
he just kidnapped a child, darn it, you know, and please, it's hard to breathe in here, let me out. And so she opens the suitcase, and out jumps the leprechaun.
No, no.
Um, they go through it. He chucks her down a flight of stairs and into the basement. O'Grady comes back and uh, basically traps him in a crate or he's got his 4-leaf clover, and he backs him up and traps him into a crate. Leaves the 4-leaf clover on top. No gratitude at all. And he's about to burn the house down to try and kill the leprechaun, and he has a stroke. Um, then 10 years later, I think it is, um, Jennifer Aniston and her dad come, and they are renting the place for the summer. And she's a Valley girl. She's very. This is '93,
Yeah.
but she's almost portraying more of like an '80s Valley girl. But
So
maybe it was still going on. I don't know.
very like Rodeo Drive, like.
Yes, very
Well,
much so.
where am I
Like
supposed to go shopping?
she's got an ancient cell phone. It's pretty cool. Um, and so um, she's about to leave. She's like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not staying here. And then
Ooh.
she sees the guys at the game. They hired some people to come fix up the house, and one of them is this guy who I will refer to as Kevin Bacon. Um, he's actually Ken. Uh, what's his name? Ken Olant,
Ken
and he was
Oland.
apparently Captain Picard's son in the show. I didn't know that. But he looks like a fake Kevin Bacon. Um, and so she's attracted to him. So she's like, well, maybe I'll stick around some. And the other characters are a kid, a literal kid, and Francis from Pee Wee's Big Adventure, who plays Ollie, and he's he's slow, or is simple minded, however you want to say it. Um, and he is the first to find the leprechaun. So they kind of pay, you know, Kevin Bacon is hot. Well, wait till you see Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Fakin.
Bam, there he is, right there. Um, and they kind of dance around a little bit, but eventually the leprechaun gets out and he attacks Ollie, and he's like, "Where's my gold? Where's my gold?" Well, nobody believes Ollie, because he's simple minded. And apparently he always talks about like aliens attacking and stuff like that. And Kevin Bacon also hot, wicked hot. Um, and he so nobody believes him. Uh, they the leprechaun's kind of sneaking around at first. He's like not all up in your face at first, and then like he can throw his voice. He pretends to be a cat, scratches Jennifer Aniston on the leg, stuff like that. And eventually, what does he do? He scratches or bites the dad. I can't remember. The dad has to go to the hospital. Well, uh, during that time, Ollie and the little kid go and they find the bag of gold in the old truck. So they've got all the gold there, and they're like, "Yeah." And Ollie had seen in movies how you check if it's gold is if you bite in it. And real gold is such a soft metal you can leave a teeth mark in it. So that's why they would bite them on the old movies. Uh, and Ollie accidentally swallows a piece of gold because he's not too bright. They go into town. They drop the dad off at the hospital, and they take one of the pieces of gold to the coin collector. There's a collection shop in there, and then they go back to the farm. Well, then comes our first kill. The leprechaun goes to the coin collector and kills him with a pogo stick. And
Nice.
like Warwick Davis is just so gleefully killing this guy with a pogo stick. It just makes it so great. um,
Didn't he do a rhyme too?
yeah, he says, like you could don't take the gold of Lep, or no, I don't know, I
Don't
can't remember, but yes.
remember not to take the gold from my chest as I bounce on your chest. No, that didn't work.
Oh no, he says something. Yeah, he says something about I'll puncture your lung, like
Yeah.
something like that. And so they go back to the house. He gets his first gold piece, and then the gold gives him power. Okay, he gets either gold and or murdering gives him power. So he goes back to the house to find them. And on the way back, so he finds within the collection shop, he finds a little like Power Wheels car, with like a little truck, and so he's driving that back to the farmhouse, and a cop pulls him over, like 'cause he's
Really?
he drive yeah, but it's going like 50 miles an hour, and cop pulls him over, and the cop's like, "All right, kid, take your mask off," like, and he's like, "I'm 600 years old." Uh, like if you saw this fucking thing, you'd be like, "That's a little kid in a mask." But so he kills the cop, and they go back to the farmhouse, um, and basically it's just a race for the like they for at first. they're not sure what he wants, even though the whole movie he's like going, "I want me gold, I want me gold." They're like, "Oh, what does he want?" And then at some point they're like, "Oh, he wants his gold,"
Give him his gold
Um,
back. What the hell?
so they go to give him his gold back, and he's somewhat content. They're like, he's already screwed up their car; they can't leave again. Um, and then he figures out that there's a piece missing. Well, this is the piece that's inside Ollie, and they're like, "Well, we're not going to sacrifice Ollie, so we got to figure out how to kill this thing." And then comes the best scene in the movie. So he's hiding in the cabinets, and then they open this cabinet, or he peeks out of this cabinet, and they open it, and then they blast it with a shotgun. And then he pops out of another cabinet. So they open it, and then they blast it with a shotgun, and then another cabinet. And then he reaches through a drawer and just grabs Kevin Bacon's nuts and like it squeezes them. And Kevin Bacon's like, ah, like it's so great. And then
And he's got the biggest hands ever, dude. That guy,
yeah,
like,
he's got these big
giant
clawed
monster's
hands. Like,
hands. Yeah,
screw that. Like, no way.
that's hilarious.
I know, like just like hold on and let him poop it out. Like, but nope. It's gonna take a while for Ollie, I guess. So they go to the old folks home, or like a sanitarium, I guess. And O'Grady's been there. He had the stroke, and then went to a sanitarium. Well, when they get there, it's Lep waiting for him, and he chases him back. And then O'Grady pops out of the elevator, the top of the elevator, and he's like, "You have to touch him with the 4-leaf clover, and then you can kill him. You have to touch it to him." So they go digging around for a 4-leaf clover and find one. If you've ever actually looked for a 4-leaf clover, this is like a 4-leaf clover, about a 4-hour ordeal, maybe. Like,
Yeah, I think I've seen one 4-leaf clover.
I've found them in real life. They're literally genetic mutations, and so like, and here's the thing too. Like, if they're not in it, because there's like patches of clovers. Like, since it's a genetic mutation, it's not like if it's not in that patch, it's just not in that patch. Like, you've got to find another patch that has like that mutation. But I've found a few in real life. But yeah, and they're like, "Oh, look, I found one. Hey, look, here it is." Of course. But so they
Also,
go back and go ahead.
also when he goes down the basement to go look for his wife, the 4-leaf clover went from a little 4-leaf clover to a big 4-leaf clover.
Like a fucking shamrock. Yeah.
And then later when he put it onto the crate, like immediately after, it turned back into a little 4-leaf clover again. Pretty funny.
Yeah, like, and that because I've got some shamrocks on my front lawn. They're noticeably like they're like Irish shamrocks. Like, they're big, like as big as a coaster. And clovers, everybody in America knows clovers. They're just these little things that you can pretty much use for grass. Yeah, there's a big difference. But Mel's got you there. Magic.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
exactly what it is.
But so he's about to rip open Ollie and get his coin back whenever Alex, the little kid, gets his slingshot, gets the 4-leaf clover, wraps the 4-leaf clover in the gum that he was chewing, and gets his slingshot and says, "Hey!" And then, of course, the leprechaun turns and looks at him. He's like, and Alex says, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms," and shoots the 4-leaf clover into his mouth, and he swallows it. Starts melting. They blow him away with a shotgun, throw him into the well, set the well on fire, and all is right with the world.
Nice.
And then that's the first Leprechaun movie.
In XD. What a glorious, and I say one of the greatest movies ever to be put on Solenoid.
The movie, it was so great that they had to make
7 more.
7 more of them. Yes, 7 more of them. Which
we will cover now. Let's get into Leprechaun 2. Only 7 more to go. 6 after this one. So in Leprechaun 2, what happens? I'm just kidding.
No, well, we can talk about it. We're not going into detail, but
We're not talking
so
about it anymore. I want to go into just one. We're not talking about Leprechaun anymore today. Well, we will talk about Leprechaun Goes to Space. Tell me a little bit about how does this play out? Because I've seen how Jason goes to space. I want to know how Leprechaun makes it to space. Did somebody take his gold to space and he's like goes chasing after his gold?
okay, that's a good question.
And
So the
question number 2 is, do they ever talk about rainbows? Does a rainbow land on him and people find him that way? Because that's supposed to be
nope,
his gold's supposed to be at the end of a rainbow.
nothing about rainbows. Nope. Uh, so the Leprechaun sequels are close, slightly related at best. Okay, they're related because they have a leprechaun in them,
And
right?
yeah, how? Yeah, Mel Kennedy wants to know, how does the fool let his gold get taken 8 times? Exactly. And also, I believe isn't there a Candyman crossover at some point too?
No, that would be spectacular.
I think
I
there was.
wish
I heard something about that.
it might it might have been in the works or something, but yeah, not yet.
So tell me about
Um,
space. I didn't mean to cut you off.
so yeah, they're all slightly related. Basically, it's just you've got a leprechaun in it. Even fans of the franchise are like, is this the same leprechaun or is it like multiverse stuff or like what's going on here? Um, and in Jason X, they readily explain how he got into space. Right? Jason X is a spectacular film. They explain it. In Leprechaun, they're like, nah, fuck that shit. He's in space. It begins with him on some other planet courting some alien queen, and then they
Really?
come and yeah,
It
yeah,
just
and then
begins
they
in
come,
space, so you don't ever really know why he's in space. It just happens to be in space.
yeah. It's the year 2096, and yeah, and then the Space Marines come and just kill him in the first 5 minutes, but one of the Space Marines decides to pee on him and his spiritual leprechaun essence flows up the stream through this guy's penis, and he is later birthed out this guy's penis, and that's how he got on the spaceship.
Is this where
So it explains how
always wear a prophylactic or always use protection?
it,
I
it
saw a clip.
is,
I saw that clip.
and so it and Wellmouth says it's the future that explains it. Yes, and he's got a space penis, but it's one of those things like it I kind of love movies like this where they're like, you know what, we're off the rails, we're just gonna go with it, we're gonna like, we're just gonna have fun with this, like, and it's, don't get me, like, Lep in Space is not a good movie. Like if you're like, I want to watch a good movie, but
Take that back, dude. You take that back. Oh boy.
especially on patties, I'm sorry. But it is a fun as shit movie. It's stupid and gory and fun and like it's just a fun movie. Like you're gonna enjoy Lep in Space. Um, you probably need to have something to drink or something to smoke and have some friends around, and you'll enjoy it more. But it's a blast.
the After the Freddy versus I just looked it up. After Freddy versus Jason, they came close. They wanted to do a Leprechaun versus Candyman film, but it didn't end up happening. Somebody put
That would have been cool.
yeah, and
Like
Ash, and what was it? Michael Myers versus Pinhead.
I heard about that. That seems like a weird mix for me. Now, Ash versus Leprechaun would be great. Like if that, I mean that's almost perfect. Like Leprechaun has the Necronomicon in his treasure hoard somewhere, and Ash has got to go get it. And
There's
that
Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
a comic. There's a comic, yes, and that was going to be a movie, yeah. And but Bruce Campbell, I think one of the big reasons Bruce Campbell was like, Ash has to win. Ash has to win. Like, they're like, yeah. So our video is a little out of sync with our audio.
I'm seeing
Here.
that. I am seeing that. That's weird. Well, let's see here. Curtis is
You know,
visibly out of sync. I'm going to quit scrolling and close these other
am I still?
windows. See if it fixes. There we
I
go.
think I'm good now.
Yeah, I think you're good too.
You know what else is weird?
What else is weird?
So they tried to reboot the franchise. So the draw, the charm, the glory of the Leprechaun series is Warwick Davis and his performance. Like he's just great. Like it's like Freddie. You like Freddie because of Robert England. Like, like maybe they could have pulled it off with somebody else. So they try to reboot the series and they make this movie called Leprechaun Origins, and it's just a monster. Like, and it was created by WWE Films, uh,
That's weird.
the wrestling organization. Yes, and like it's so stupid. Like, it's just this monster chasing him, and at the end they cut its head off and they just kill it. Like, there's no magic. There's no it's just like I don't understand what they were going for. Like, there's no charm. Like, and they were trying to be a straight up horror film.
And no Lucky
I,
Charms.
there's yeah, like I don't get it. Like, they didn't obviously didn't understand the draw of what they had.
That's hilarious. I mean, dude, there's a lot of remakes and ideas that just don't need to be made. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot, but
Oculus.
Oculus was a
Go ahead.
good WWE movie.
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't either. There's a lot of stuff I need to see.
I saw Surfs Up. The WWE sequel to Surfs Up. It was good. My kids watch it all the time.
Nice. Well, shoot, man. That was a good matchup on this crazy St. Patty's Day. Guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, because you need to do that, fuckers. What's the next next crazy verses we're gonna do? And do you guys out there have any requests, like Sharknado versus Deep Blue Sea? You ever see Deep Blue Sea? That's a pretty funny movie.
I did.
I will,
I haven't seen
Mel.
the
Thank you very
sequels.
much.
I haven't seen the sequels, but I've seen Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea is. I didn't watch the sequels either. Meg. There's Meg. Another shark movie. We need to do shark. Whenever Shark Week happens.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Shark Week will be easy.
Dude, we got a crazy. We got crazy times right now. There's we're about to get. There's a Halo series that's happening. As far as streaming goes, there's a Halo series that's about to happen. There is Morbius is about to get to the theaters. And there's something else.
Moon Knight starting in
Moon Knight. Yeah, Moon Knight, and so we got Moon Knight, Morbius, and Halo. That's three really good shows. And Picard's out right now. We don't know Halo. Like we don't know what's going to happen with that, but.
Now, let me ask you this.
What's that?
Have you watched Attack on Titan?
No, what is that?
Okay, so Attack on Titan is an anime that is just freaking awesome. So
is it new or super old, or what's the story with that?
It's so I think the finale is supposed to air on April 3rd. So it's only 4 seasons. You got time to catch up. See, I'll tell you right now, season 2 is kind of a slog. It's kind of like Walking Dead season 2. It like hits so hard in the first season, and then it's like, all right. But then season 3 and 4, like, just go bonkers, and they're fucking awesome.
Cool.
I've been binging.
How many episodes per season?
The first one's 24. The second one's like 15 or 16.
Oh shit! There's a lot. That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, but April, I mean, you got till April 3rd. I mean,
Oh yeah.
well, I don't know when that is, but I'm just like either way, like if you catch it afterwards,
Mario
it,
Kart
it
drops tomorrow. Is that a show or is it the video game? Like a new video game, Mario Kart.
did they come out with a new one, Bobby? Ooh, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, you just
But yeah, Attack on Titan is spectacular, and I had seen season one of a bazillion years ago, or whenever it started. It's one of those ones that takes forever, to get to the next season, and then it's all on Hulu right now, and it's huge. Like I would absolutely check it out, even if it's after the season finale. It's so good, so good.
cool. I have to check it out. Titan. And there's a. I see. Cool. And you swear by this show, huh? It's really good.
Yes, like I said, season two.
Have you
Like
seen
it gets a
Arcane?
little.
Did you ever watch Arcane?
No, I haven't seen Arcane.
Dude.
I do want to check that. That's the one based off League of Legends, right?
Yes.
I do want to check that one out.
We'll have to do when they drop these yeah, Mel swears by it. Yeah, you'll have to you have to watch Arcane. It's that good. Like it's ridiculous. Super good. All the episodes are out. It's in 3 chunks. There's I think 9 episodes and they released 3 at a time. So like
Uh huh.
and they kind of time jump a little bit
Hmm.
to where they all go together. So basically 3 episodes is about like watching a movie. So you
It's
can
like a
watch
story arc.
yeah, like yeah, and like you can watch 3 episodes, and then 3 episodes, you know what I mean? And if for some reason you have to duck and go to bed early or something, you just watch one of the 3, but like they released it in chunks, but they did it in a smart way to where it's like you felt like it wasn't like one of those shows where you got to wait a week for the next episode every time, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
felt like you were getting away with something when you got to binge and watch 3 episodes at a time. You were like, yes, this is fantastic.
Well,
um
that's cool.
it was cool.
But like
uh
completes the story. Yeah.
yeah, you'll
Completes
love
story.
it, dude. It's a ridiculously good story, like ridiculous.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
48 new
48 new
tracks.
tracks. Woo.
Ooh, good. I'm gonna have to get that.
Hell yeah. Well, shoot. Well, shoot, gang. That sounds fantastic. It sounds like I got to go play some damn Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play some Mario Kart and watch some Attack on Titan.
Hell yeah. Fun
Bobby's
fact,
got some Spider-Man to get to.
the video clip that one Republican edited showing himself cutting off AOC's head was from Attack on Titan. Ah, all right. Awesome.
So if you don't know, it's a show, and then these people live within these walled cities, and there are these giant humans that eat other humans. They're called Titans, and they just show up, and then uh, you know, the people behind the wall have been living in fear for 100 years, where they haven't really had to worry about it. But then like shit hits the fan, and uh, like the Titans start coming, and they got to figure it out, and yeah, it's so crazy.
You can be my friend. Thanks, Bobby. I'll be your friend. Hell yeah. Bobby.
I gotta get. Go ahead.
Bobby's a Patreon. We appreciate Bobby. She's one of our patrons. Many plot twists. I like plot twists.
Yes, very many. I gotta get it on Switch though. See, I'd already bought it on Wii U, Bobby. I'd already bought it on Wii U, and I hadn't invested in it to get again on Switch because I was like, it was kind of the same tracks, A couple, there had a couple of new ones for the Switch version, but now with 48 new tracks, that's worth it.
Totally worth it. I need to get a Switch.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah.
I
And then we can
have
do
is
some gaming episodes.
yeah, dude. All I have is the Xbox. I don't have the Xbox X. I have the Xbox, the white one that doesn't have a disc drive. The new one, but it's not the whatever. Xbox SE Sport. I'm just kidding.
I know. Yeah, or yeah, the S.
I think it is the S,
whatever.
Xbox S.
Yeah.
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 It's pretty cool. Yeah, man. Well, cool. We're at 2 hours. I gotta go. I gotta get up earlier than normal. I have to. The efficient at a wedding. I'm very efficient at that. And I'm marrying two of my friends, and I have to get up and be functional and learn my script and all that, and get ready for that. So I'm not going to be staying up as late tonight as I usually do and stuff.
This
so
young man is a professional.
That's right. I went to a rehearsal dinner. That's why I'm wearing a collared shirt. I got to go get snazzy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a really quick. I'm doing the Beetlejuice script to where it's like, do you? Yep. Okay. Do you? Don't say the B word. And then like, cool. And then boom, it's done. It's good times. So
Very cool. Very cool.
that's right. Yes.
And what are their names again? What are their names again?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
It's Aaron and Kendra. So special shout out to them. They're not watching right now. Right now, they're cheers.
That's all right.
Cheers.
Good life,
Woo.
Aaron and Kendra.
Yeah. Right now they're chilling, getting ready for the big day, and that's tomorrow. So I've got to rest up, and holy smokes, man, holy smokes!
All right. And Bobby, I will probably get it on the Switch, and yeah, I'll probably bug you and get your friend code, and we can throw it down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out. You guys, I hope you and Bobby get to throw down on some Nintendo. Do you do Animal Crossing also, Curtis?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Bobby is a Animal Crossing legend.
Ooh.
You know that?
I haven't played it. Yeah, I haven't played it in a while. My son basically, I almost have to buy another Switch because he steals it all the time. But I mean, I'm being dead serious. Like I never get to play, and anytime I'm playing it, he's like, "Oh, I want to play the Switch." So like he has no interest in it, and then I'm playing it, and he wants to take it over. So, but yeah, I have a town on there.
Hell yeah. Well, cool. Well, gang, you know where we'll be. You know where we won't be tomorrow? I won't be here because I'll be at the wedding. So, unless I get done super early, maybe I'll text you, Curtis, if I get done super early and you want to just jump on and freestyle for a little while, maybe we can do that.
Okay.
But it's an early wedding, but I'm probably going to be tied. You know how weddings are. You get tied up.
For sure.
Yeah. So I don't want to make any plans, but maybe we'll see you tomorrow. I won't be on small screen tomorrow, guys that watch small screen. So I hope you guys have a good time and tell them I said hello. And holy smokes, man, we're going to figure out some fun movies to talk about. And if you have any questions or want to see us talk about any future shows or movies, let us know, and we will work it into our schedule. So love you guys. Have a happy St. Patty's Day. Be sure to subscribe. That's right. And it's the Baker Brothers. Peacing out. So we'll see you next time. Adios.